What is an ugly truth about competitive dance? And conversely, why would you encourage a dancer to enter dance competition? What are some of the toughest challenges that you see dancers facing at dance competitions?
What are the things that you're doing to make sure dancers feel supported mentally and physically when they are at your event? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to season 5 of Beyond the Steps, presented by Apollo Performance and Turning Point Dance Creations. Today, we're talking about why health and safety are important in dance. Melissa, tell everybody who we've got today.
We have Stephanie Oliveri. She is currently the artistic director of the Guidance Experience Dance Competition and Convention. She has toured the world as a professional dancer and currently calls Williamsport, Pennsylvania home with her 18-month-old son and her husband. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
So we like to start out baseline and just get an idea. Why do you love dance? How did the love of dance see you all the way through being artistic director of Guidance Dance Experience?
Sure. So I started very young, like 5 years old, got into dance. Had no idea that it could be a career at that point, obviously. I just followed my way through um into high school, and then my family went on a cruise, and I ended up seeing one of the shows on board, and I realized, oh my gosh, you can do this as a job. There are jobs out there. And so that became kind of a goal of mine. And I grew up in Buffalo. There is a really great dance program at the University of Buffalo. So that's where I went to school. And just kind of found my way from there. One experience led to the next. And then I got a little old to be doing the whole touring thing and wanted to kind of settle down on one. Yeah, right? It hurts. Wanted to be a little more stable in a home base, I guess you could say. And found my way into the dance competition industry, which I also didn't know was an option, but kind of combines all of my passions into one thing, lets me be a little more home base centric, if you will. And it's just a joy. It's the coolest job.
It really is so fun when you get to continue to build your career around the industry that you fell in love with. I say that all the time. Like, even though my heart, I still get moments where I miss teaching and I miss all of that. Like, it's really cool that I still get to work with and be around so many creative and talented people and, keep my nose in the industry a little bit. So it's fun when you get to do that. Awesome. So jumping right into it, in your opinion, why is health and safety important in dance? And do you see enough emphasis on it in the industry?
I think it's so important because it is where these kids spend the majority of their time outside of the home and outside of school, right?
Yeah.
So it needs to have the same, we school is kind of a given, right? We assume they're safe there. They have people around them. Um, but this is a huge chunk of their time,
Yeah.
and who they're spending their time with is really important, right? We want to make sure that it's safe and it's a positive experience for them. I think industry wide, we're definitely doing a better job. I think a lot more people are taking initiative to make sure it is safe and that there
Yeah.
are good people involved. So I think we're definitely headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I feel like it's getting better, but there's so much work to do. And I think because dance is so segmented, the industry is so segmented and there's no real like standardization or governing body. I mean, we talk about YPAD and we talk about, things organizations are doing to kind of move the dance world forward in this way, but there's really no governing body, and so it's really hard to get on the same page
Ab- Any,
when everybody's doing it a little differently.
yeah, anybody can open a dance studio. Anybody can start a dance competition. There is no regulations, no checks on who these people are. So it's really important to do your research on where you're putting
Yeah.
your kid.
Yeah, and again, that's another thing that we talked about a lot on the show is like the parents doing the research because they only know what they know and they're trusting, the people in their community that they have the latest and greatest information, yet there's really no manual for how to do that well, right? And how to figure all of this out. So, yeah, and then that's why we love our partnership with Guidance, to be honest, because you guys really have put that at the forefront of what you're doing, and I know we're going to get into that in a little bit. What is personal safety in dancing? Talk about that a little bit. What does that mean to you?
Sure. So I think there it encompasses a lot of things. First of all, just being in a safe environment, in a safe studio with teachers that are, there to mentor you in a positive way. Um, in a safe building, a safe space, right? Just basic things right there. Also being surrounded by peers that you feel supportive and
Yeah.
comfortable around. Um, training that's not going to do harm or damage to your body, to your mental health. Um, thinking and speaking kindly to yourself. As dancers, we are so critical. It's never good enough. So I think just being kind to yourself throughout that process, um, and healthy eating, snacking habits. Like I said, we're spending so much of our time at the dance studio. Do you plan ahead and pack a nice dinner for yourself? Healthy snacks, lots of water. Um, those types of things.
So why do you think dancers experience injuries so much more frequently despite, being active and being flexible and having the range of motion that they do? Why do you think their injuries are so prevalent?
Well, I think it comes down to kind of like we said, anybody can open a dance studio. A lot of times we have really great teachers who have maybe a background in exercise
Yeah.
science or things like that, but sometimes not. And not every dancer's body is the same. And I feel like sometimes dance training is across the board for every dancer in the class. And that might be where some injuries come because everybody is a little different. We don't rest enough, any of us. And I feel like as dancers, we are taught from a very young age to push through the pain and keep going, to not let your team down. And I think that comes down to the parents and teachers as well, saying, hold on a minute. I know you really want to do this. I know you really want to participate in this competition or the recital. But at some point, we have to step in and say, you're not all right. You need to take the time. And again, I think that's getting better, but I do think that's the mentality of just, like, push through.
There's also a big push for, like, don't commit fully to a sport or an activity as a kid, right? Like, you wanna do as much as you can and be, well-rounded. You hear these conversations happening all the time that, there's a certain age that's too early to commit fully to one thing. But the flip side of that, and this is where I struggle in our house, I mean, and luckily, like, this isn't much of a conversation for us because our kid he's not interested in doing, he wants to get a little involved at school, he wants to play soccer, that's the end of it. There's a lot of people that have the mindset, and I was one of them, that you have to do so many things. The problem with that is that your body is always fatigued. Your body is always doing something. So when we say we don't rest enough, is that contributing to the problem? Because yes, they're dancing 4 days a week, but then they're also doing track and they're playing basketball and they're doing wrestling, insert whatever, activity that they're going to do physically. But does that also take a toll? Because we have this mentality, which I see the merit behind it, but we're gonna do multiple things, which, I'm seeing kids committed 6, 7 days a week to something, right? And is their body getting the rest it needs? So is that contributing to it? I don't know.
For sure, and then where do they fit in homework? Where do they fit in just being a kid and playing,
Yeah.
you know?
And then ultimately, then it leads to that burnout conversation that we've had when they get to those, middle of the high school years, ultimately. And Melissa and I have talked about this frustration. I'm sure you've gone through it too, is you see these kids that you've invested so much time and energy into that have so much potential and they quit, So It is really rough. It's hard to,
Find that balance,
it's
right?
hard to reconcile and it's hard to find that balance, but when you see these injuries happening, you have to wonder, is that part of what's going on here?
What is an ugly truth about competitive dance? And conversely, why would you encourage a dancer to enter dance competitions?
This is my favorite question. Trigger warning. Um,
Should we put that on the screen?
right. So obviously, I work for a dance competition. I absolutely love it. I think there's so much value. But I do think the ugly truth about any dance competition is that no one cares what award you won, what title you won once you get out of high school. I'm sorry. It is important, and it is so important in that moment, and it's something amazing to work for. But if you decide to follow into this industry and become a professional dancer, when you get to college, every single person in that room was also Miss Teen Dance of Pennsylvania, Utah,
Right.
California.
Very true.
So it doesn't matter once it's over. And I say that with so much love. Hang on to those trophies, keep them in your room, let it be a memory of a really good time. But that's my ugly truth. Now, let me get to all of the amazing things that is the reason why I believe in them. I think it's a great way to meet other dancers. And the industry is a very, very small place. So, someone that you meet at a comp weekend might be your college roommate, might be your roommate on tour for your very first gig or on a cruise ship. You never ever know. So I think it's a really great way to meet people that you might see later on in your career. I think there's also a lesson in you're not going to win everything in life. There is going to be disappointments. There are going to be difficult things. And obviously, we wanna shield our children from that as much as we can, but we also need to give them safe experiences to understand that feeling and how to navigate it and what to do, because eventually they're gonna walk out the door and they have to do it on their
Yeah.
own, and if it slams them in the face, they aren't gonna know how to get back up. So, I think it's a really safe space surrounded by people that love and care for them to get a taste of what that feels like and how to cope with it. I think as dancers, we're super competitive by nature. So, again, I think it's an awesome avenue to explore to find that competitive spirit, find within yourself how to be your best, to work hard and really push yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're only really competing against yourself in something like that. So it is again another safe opportunity to find that spirit. And there's also some really incredible scholarship opportunities.
Mhm.
I know I work at a local dance studio right now as a teacher, and I have a student who is young. I think she's 13 or 14. So she's just starting to open her eyes to what the industry has to offer. And she has no idea, right? And at these events, we get to give scholarships to summer intensives, to different schools, things to open these dancers' eyes to show them what is out there for them. And these don't always go to the highest scoring dancer in the event. There's opportunities for every dancer. And I love to say there is a job for every dancer too out there. You just have to find it. So I think that's a really special thing that we get to give back to our dancers just to show them what's out there.
I wanna, kinda add on to a couple things you said. So the first thing is you said nobody cares, once you graduate high school, that award that you got at your dance competition that you did when you were in high school or middle school or whatever, that doesn't matter, right? And that I would totally say that that's true, having danced professionally and all of that, the pool opens up, and once you get into that bigger pool, like, everybody's been there, done that, right? But at the same time, for those that are hearing that, we don't wanna discourage you because the flip side of that is going through the process teaches so many of those lessons that are valuable. Then you go out into the world, whether you wanna dance or not. I've definitely heard people say, "I don't get the point of investing and putting money in all of this," and they're gonna do something with all that time, right? In high school, they're either gonna find trouble or they're gonna be busy. And if they're busy, they might as well learn the lessons that are going to carry them forward through life, time management, discipline, focus, hard work, all of the things. But then you add on the environment of the competition environment where it can get very comfortable. And I would say this is the biggest lesson that I learned moving from studio dance to professional dance is, you get all the accolades within your studio and everybody loves to watch you and you get the front part and you do this and you do that. When you get into a competitive environment, you're seeing what else is out there, what other people your age are doing and able to do. And it really shows you, kind of elevates the bar. This is what I need to work on. This is where I need to get. Look at what other kids my age are doing. And not in a dirty way, not in a make you feel bad about yourself. It should be a healthy way that push you to want to do better and be better, right? And take it to that next level. And I think that's so important to see. And this really applies to anything that you're doing. Like I just a couple weeks ago, I took my son to Phoenix for a soccer tournament. Why are you going to Phoenix? Why are you paying money to go to Phoenix? And you know what? They lost every game they've lost 2 of the 3 games that they played. And it was a bummer. And it was like we came all the way to Phoenix to, lose these 2 games. But when you look at what he took away from that experience, just the time with his team, the time as a player, seeing, you know, players from all around the country, same age and what they're doing, it was really motivational for him to come back and go to work, right? So I think it's really important if we're having an honest, like in this society where everyone gets a ribbon and everyone gets a thanks for playing, that we really understand what they're getting, the value of what they're getting by going to these events that it isn't held by a ribbon or a trophy or a placement. I say it's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that when people think like, "Oh, you're going to Phoenix, you're taking your kid to Phoenix for this," or especially dance, you're taking your kid that far to go to a dance competition, people look at it as some frivolous,
Oh, yeah, well, like,
it's
"Wow, you must have a ton of money." Oh my you might and I'm like, "No, no."
dance around. Like, no, there's skill involved in this. There is a competitive spirit there. They're professional judges. They're not, this isn't just we all go dance around and line dance on the stage.
And I will say to support that, to just put some context behind it. This is not something we decided lightly as a family, like, "Oh, everyone's going, so we're just gonna go." Like, these are active conversations. I think where how far you go with this should be determined by how badly your child wants to pursue this and how the work that they're willing to put into it and the commitment they're willing to show. This was a big family conversation that we had about going from rec to competitive. It was a big conversation and we did that last year. But then he's moved up and now the commitment is different and they're asking them to travel out of state. Okay, that was another big conversation we had and another set of I guess expectations that our son has to be able to continue to do this, of like, we have to get good grades, you have to put in we don't want to hear any complaining, you have to practice on your own, like all of those things. And then it's constantly checking in, going, is this really what you want to be doing with your time right now? Because if it's not, we need to know. And it's all of those things. So no, it's not just, oh, frivolous, we're spending money to go out of state. It's been a lot of conversations and goal checks and knowing that kids are kids and their minds change and their goals change over time. You know, that determines how far you're willing to take this, and we want to obviously give him those opportunities and support him, as do all the dance families. But I think it's really important to know you just don't go 0 to 100. There's some steps in there that should happen. And, local competitions are different than out of state, which is different than nationals and all of the things. So definitely have those conversations.
So speaking of competition, let's talk about some of the toughest problems that dancers face at competitions. Stephanie, so what are you seeing as an artistic director? You see this weekend after weekend, I'm sure. What are some of the toughest challenges that you see dancers facing at dance competitions?
Sure. I think there are a few things. Obviously there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on these kids, right? Because it's one performance you get. You've been working all, depending on where you are in the season, you've been working for months on these routines and you get one go for 2.5 minutes, right? So they've got pressure from their parents who've paid a lot of money for them to be there, their teachers who've been working with them. They get in their head and the pressure they put on themselves to be their best and go out there and do an amazing job. So that's a lot of pressure for these dancers to kind of sort through on a weekend. And a lot of them they're not just doing one routine, they're doing sometimes 14, 15 routines. It's a lot. It's a lot to have in your brain and make your body do. The biggest thing I think, and you kind of touched Bree a little bit on this, is comparison. I think there's an amazing thing about other dancers being able to watch each other and see what they're capable of and what they're learning. But at the same time, then they have that. And we do this as adults too. On social media, we see what people are doing and what they have and what we should be striving for. And sometimes it's really debilitating. So, with the good comes the bad. And how do you, as a young dancer, a teenager, filter that as I need to take this and be better and not, "Oh, man, there's no way I can be as good as her. I'm not even going out."
But that's a total skill that the only way you learn that skill is by being put in those situations. If we're constantly and I'm agreeing with you, I'm not disagreeing. I'm agreeing. But if we're constantly shielding our kids from having to feel that, this is a controlled space where I like the competitive environment so much more than social media because social media is edited. You're only seeing the good parts. When you're at a competition, you get to see everyone in their element, and that includes how do they prepare before they go on stage? If you look around, what is everyone doing before they set foot on the stage? And I would bet 9 times out of 10, everybody's doing something different because it is very personal. And that is a place where you can learn that about yourself. There are some kids that love to goof around until the minute they set foot on stage because it keeps their mind off everything. I was never that kid. I was the kid that was head down, not talking to anybody, going through the dance 50,000 times until the music started and then I'm out, right? But, and then you can't stop me. But like every child and every teacher, to be honest, is very different in how they prepare. The stress emanated from my body as a director and a teacher, and it was palpable sometimes, and that was a challenge. I really had to work on that. Where some teachers were just very quiet and very relaxed. I'm like, girl, that is not me. I don't know how you do that. But that's personality, those are it's very personal. Um, and again, I only think the way you figure that out about yourself is by being put in those situations. What are the things that you're doing to make sure dancers feel supported mentally and physically when they are at your event?
So, first of all of our staff is background checked and first aid and CPR certified. So, anyone on site can help with a medical emergency. Kelly, the owner, was a former nurse. So, she is like the go to person. Um, but, like we touched on a little bit before, anyone anyone in the world can start a dance competition or open a dance studio. So these kids are spending a lot of time with these people.
Sure.
You need to know that they are safe people, right? Because a lot of times you get to a dance competition and you kind of hand your kid off to the teacher. The parents usually aren't definitely allowed backstage, sometimes not even in the dressing rooms, depending on the event. So you're just trusting. There's so much trust that you have to put out there as a parent. And we want you to know for sure that any person your child comes into contact with at our event has been background
Yeah.
checked, is a safe person. So that's huge for us. Um, another thing with dance competitions we talked about is they're really long days, and don't even get me started about the ones that start on Wednesday. You're never going to have that with us. We are typically only a 2-day event. So our convention portion happens typically on the Friday evening, and then competition is all day Saturday, and we're off on Sunday. Um, we don't start before 8 a.m., and we're done dancing by 10. So
And
we're
I will
really,
say we've partnered with you guys for a long time, and this is something that has remained consistent about about guidance for years. I mean, we've partnered with y'all for years, and this is something you absolutely work hard to maintain. I will verify that for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really important. And, these kids are giving their all, and we gotta keep that rest. That is something that we're, really, really pushing for. Also age appropriate standards. So that's a huge thing with YPAB, right? In dance, it's not like gymnastics. There are not certain skills that everyone has to do in each routine. There's no like costume requirement. You are free to choose whatever you want. Um, and we make sure that all the lyrics are checked. Um, we're not going to allow music to be played with any bad words, bad messaging, bad content. We're checking that prior to the event so there's no surprises on the day of. Um, we're also really conscious about costuming for our dancers. We're not saying no two pieces allowed, but does the costume and the song and the choreography lead to a certain direction? That's where we're gonna
I
have a
love that
little.
you said that because I was just about to ask you, how do you it's so subjective, and every panel of judges is gonna look at that differently, and then do you penalize the kids for a decision that the choreographer made, and how do you do this? Because I think that's the biggest hurdle when we
Yep,
have this conversation about age appropriate costuming and attire. So,
absolutely.
how do you guys and so is that the guideline? If it's the costume, music, and the choreography together that are all, I mean, let's just be real nasty. Um, that's a hard line. What
Yeah,
happens in that?
I think yeah, there's nothing exactly in the rules that say no two-piece costumes allowed because there are a lot of really tasteful,
Absolutely,
we're also at the mercy of what the costume companies are producing this season. Or
absolutely.
maybe, you can't afford a new costume for your solo this year, so you're getting a hand-me-down one or one that was used once last year. So that is, we're not, and it's also usually not the dancer's choice. The teacher is picking for them. So we will not penalize for that, but it's an overall picture.
Yeah.
Are you in a more revealing costume dancing to a song that could be,
Like
sexualized?
innuendo.
Say that one more time, Melissa.
Song that has innuendo in it, or
Absolutely. And is the choreography also leaning that way? Um, And something also special at guidance is we have our three main judges. Then we also have a teacher judge. So this judge is commenting specifically on things that only the teacher hears that are out of, the dancer's control. They don't need to hear
Very
it.
interesting.
So
Okay.
this is
Very
going and they focus on the costuming, the choreography.
good.
The other judges don't even touch on that. We want to hear technical feedback on what the dancer can control from those three, and then the teacher judge is where we can um, talk about any deductions, or maybe think about if you're going to use this costume, change the song or change the facing of that floor work because it's a little risky.
I love that you guys do that because
Mhm.
I absolutely think the teacher needs to hear that. But I also think it's really hard. Being in that position, I would always love to go back. I mean, I would preview the critiques first, and then I would sit down with our kids, and our teachers would do this too. Like, we would go through what the judges' feedback was, and we would legitimately use that to make changes for the next one.
Well, that's
And
the purpose, right?
it's the purpose, but it almost, I mean, 50% maybe work out that way, and then the other 50, you get judges who are, "Uh-huh," or they're singing a song, and they're not really giving anything valuable, but I think having the teacher being able to hear that feedback is so important because when it's not mentioned, it's not written down, they end up winning the awards, they're thinking, "There's nothing wrong with what I just put up there." And
Exactly.
there's no accountability. And so I love that you're providing that accountability, but doing it in a way that's not going to harm their business, impact their students. But they are getting that feedback, which I think is the biggest problem that we have right now.
Yeah, and it's just about education across the board. We all want to grow as teachers and people and
Right.
humans, and this gives that opportunity, room to happen
Yeah.
yeah, I love
for
that.
sure.
That
Uh,
is awesome.
One other thing that's really important about what we do is, it's obviously open to the public, our events. We don't charge admission or anything. However, anyone that comes in the door needs to have a guidance pass that we give out to the dance teachers and then they distribute to their studio people. So, if grandma wants to come watch the solo, totally fine. Email her a picture of this. But every single person that walks in the door has to show this pass to get a wristband so that
Sure.
we know everyone in the building is someone there who's here to support our dancers. A lot of times these events happen in huge convention centers or big theaters, and you don't know who's sitting in the back row watching kids. So that I think is huge and one of the most important things that we, do our best to make sure we know exactly who is in the building watching these
I
dancers.
love that.
It is time for homework. Our
Homework.
hallmark things that we do here at Beyond the Steps. So, Bree, you want to go ahead and lead us into homework?
Yeah. So, Stephanie, this is something we do every week. We like to give everybody out there watching one piece of homework, something they can do between now and next week's show to sort of make progress or gain understanding in what we're talking about today, which is, why is health and safety important in dance? So, what is your one homework assignment you want to give to everybody out there?
I think it's just do your research. We're on our phone all the time. It's literally always in your hand or your pocket. So just do a quick search, check the social media of the dance competitions that you attend, the studio you attend. Just make sure that the overall message is something that you believe in and that you want your child involved in. Um, and I can't stress enough that, we need to just be aware and know because there are no regulations, there are no rules, and like I said, anyone can start a dance competition. There are so many out there and there are a lot of really really amazing ones.
Yeah.
So just really do your research and make sure that where you're spending all of your money is somewhere that you believe in and you champion.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, the parents don't always get a say in where the kids go. So I think the only thing you really have is doing the research first and then using your voice and going to your director, your teacher, and timing is everything, right? Like in a lot of cases, they're picking the competition schedule over the summer or early fall. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that now you have to reserve deposits like in September for an April competition because they sell out so fast. It's
Right. Like
yeah,
the June before. It is
yeah.
crazy how early it happens.
Yeah. So I think, doing your research and also managing the expectation that if you find something that you're not thrilled about, you need to take that to your director, your teacher, who's ever making those decisions, voice your concern and allow them some time to maneuver because it's not as easy as just, okay, well, we're just not going to go to that one. So understanding there's like a whole process to it, but I think just the more the better prepared you can be, even if it's the next season, and making choices as to what studio you're dancing at. Do those values align? We've had episodes that talk about that as well. Making sure that your values with what you want for your child align with the studio that you're dancing at, I think is really important. And there's also opportunities for you to register, for those that want additional competition opportunities. You can register independently and register your child and take them in a weekend. Maybe they don't have anything going on with dance and take them to the competition on your own. That's something where a guidance, if it's not already on the schedule, would be fantastic. And so just know that there's options out there for the way that you guys can handle all of that. And I know there's so many things and places and organizations to be aware of. So do your research. I love that homework. We give the same homework on the show every week, and that is simply to take our free steps initiative course. It was the catalyst for this entire weekly video series that we do now called Beyond the Steps. It is on our website. We're going to pop that link into the resources after the episode so you can find that always. But we encourage you to take it. It's a 5-part series. Each module was curated by experts in the field. We're going to give you evidence-based research and information and resources in things like racism, gender inequity, sex abuse and prevention, nutrition, psychology, and of course, medicine and science, so that you can sort of start learning and laying the foundation on some of these things. And hopefully, it inspires you to dive deeper and dig in deeper on your own. So, when you know better, you do better. That is what we are all about here at Beyond the Steps. To take that course, go back and watch all of our seasons 1 through 4. We're in season 5 right now. So get caught up on all of our episodes. There's some fantastic content. Is there anything you want to share, Stephanie, as to where they can get more resources about health and safety for dancers? Anywhere you want to recommend them looking first, starting on their journey besides that Steps Initiative course? Anything that would be helpful?
Sure. Well, definitely check out the YPAD website. There's so many resources and they've really reshaped, it's under new ownership. So they've really reshaped and made it way more accessible to so many more people. So definitely check that out. And also Dan Send is an amazing, it's two women and they are all about mental health and wellness for dancers. We recently started partnering with them. They have incredible content. They're doing amazing things for dancers and teachers and just helping, open everyone's eyes. So I would definitely point you in their direction as well.
Yeah, shout out to Kristen Dice and Michelle Lucadou Frazier for what they're doing over at Dan Sund. It's awesome. And we'll make sure to pop that link in the notes as well for y'all. So talk a little bit about guidance, what we can expect this season, what you have going on, and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So we are so excited. We're in season 7 and we're doing our first nationals this summer. So that's something really cool that we're adding to the tour.
That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, we've added a new city to the tour this year too. We've got our ambassador program, which is for young dancers. They come on events with us and they learn the behind the scenes of how we operate the event to just kind of give them an opportunity to see what's out there. If they want to follow the industry, what it takes to put on an event and what it looks like behind the scenes. We've got some great new kids this season, so we're really looking forward to getting them out on tour. Yeah, it's gonna be a great season. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, congrats on that. That's really cool that you guys are doing a nationals. Where is it going to be?
It's gonna be in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
Venue to be released soon. Stay tuned.
How many cities
Hey,
in the group?
it's not Vegas. That's all I'm going to say. Not Vegas.
It's different. Different is good.
We're keeping a little close to home just for our first time going out. But Pittsburgh's an amazing city.
I'm saying it in the best way possible, just so you know.
Oh, I know. Um, what was I gonna say? Pittsburgh is such a cool city. If you've never been, it's a really great place.
I'm always curious about how many. We'll definitely go visit the website. I'm sure you.
Yeah, it's on our website. We have nine regionals, and then nationals would be 10.
Okay. Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for being here with us. We have enjoyed having you as a guest today.
Thank you.
A special thanks to Stephanie Oliveri and the Guidance Experience for being with us today and having this conversation. Thank you, Apollo Performance Wear and Turning Point Dance Creations. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and love doing this show together every single week. Guys, help us out. We are trying to get to 100K. So please hit the subscribe, follow button, like, share, comment. Please help us out. We really want to get to 100K. We'll have a celebration when we do. If you have not seen seasons 1 through 4, because this is season 5, recordings of seasons 1 through 4 are available on YouTube at Apollo Performance and at TP Dance Creations. If you have an idea for a topic or want to be a guest, DM either one of us on any of our social media platforms or email info@apolloperformance.com. Join us next week. Next week's a flashback episode. We're going to pick one of our favorites. It'll be you and from a previous season, so we can tune in for that and make sure that you get a little refresher on some stuff that we talked about, maybe seasons 1 through 4. Until then, we hope you continue your journey beyond the steps. See you next week.